You see, since I started reading books, I have read all types of genres. I have read mysteries, I've read biographies, I've read educational books, I've read sci fi books. But the one genre I've always hated was self help. Because I thought these were boring books that are just like my school books, just feeding data into me. But then there was this one book which showed me that even self help books could be interesting. You see, this book presented its content in such a manner that it just gripped me. And this book was Attitude is Everything by Jeff Keller. And this is exactly what I'll be reviewing today. So, as I said, I'll be reviewing the book Attitude is Everything by Jeff Keller. Now, first of all, I'll tell you how the book starts. Now, you see that whenever you need to convince something, when you are telling someone about your topic and you need to persuade them that yes, this will work for you, you have to show them that it has worked before. And that is exactly what the author does. Jeff Keller basically starts with his own life story. He tells that since he was a teenage, he wanted to be a lawyer in his life. He did all kinds of studies for it, he passed the bar examination, and he was having quite a successful career. But the one problem was, as he slowly moved into his career, he realized that the job wasn't exactly as he had dreamed for. There was a lot of paperwork, and he, as he described it, he dreaded going to work. And that's why he thought of leaving his job. Now, the job of a lawyer was very precious to him, but to leave it was a great risk. But as I just told you, he was unhappy with his job, so he had to leave it. Now, one day when he was very stressed out due to his lawyer job, as I explained, he was sitting in his room, which he calls his den, and in his den he was watching the TV, just scrolling through the programs, and he saw an ad of a tool called the mental bank, and it was being advertised. Now, normally he says he doesn't get attracted to such TV advertisements, but this time he thought, why not try it out? And he just called on the number they had told and ordered the product. He tells that one night in his den was the turning point of his life. He says that one night literally made him the speaker, made him the man he is today. That is what, because when he was using that program, he heard many audio programs by Bob Proctor, by Earl Nightingale, and other people. And what he learned was one thing, that attitude is everything. Now, how does this imply in our lives? What does the book have to tell about this in our lives? That is what I'll tell you now. Now, this book is basically a roadmap to success. And just like all other roadmaps, it has got some steps that you've got to follow these steps, and that is what will lead you to success. And the first step, which I believe is the cornerstone of it all, like we say, the foundation of the building should be strong. To build the building, this first step is that cornerstone which will act as your foundation. And this is what he calls success begins in the mind. He says that your thoughts are what gives rise to the results. And now there's a complete journey through that, but your thoughts are what shape your next step. And now you must be thinking that why people say that action is what matter, not the thought. But that is why Jeff Keller has to say that thought precedes action. You'll take action only when you have a particular thought in your mind. And that is why he says ideas are very important. When you have a good idea, that will impact your actions. But why are thoughts so important? Let's take an analogy for this. Suppose you're a 12-year-old boy like me, and this is your first day in your class. Today you have just come after completing your final term examinations of the last class, and you are so excited to meet your next teachers. Now, there's one teacher that comes in with a hunched back, gloomy face, and the mindset of the teacher is that, I've got to face this new class today. How will I convince the children about my subject? My subject is very boring, the children will not find it interesting. She's got a very negative point of view of the world. So she comes in with a gloomy face, she introduces herself just as if she doesn't want to talk to you. And then she doesn't even ask the children about their day, and just starts teaching. And she teaches while most of her words, she's just murmuring in her mouth. You can't understand most of what she said. Now, would you like such a teacher? Of course not. Now, let's take the example of another teacher. She's a cheerful teacher, and the mindset of hers is that, oh, I've got a new class today. Let's meet the new children and see what they've got in store for me. And let us show them what I've got in store for them. She enters into the class with a good posture, with a positive attitude, and she comes in, greets the children with a cheerful face, and she immediately starts introducing herself, and she talks about how she teaches, she introduces her subject, and all the doubts she sees that the children always have in her mind, she clears them. Then she makes each and every child introduce himself or herself, and she talks with the children for the first class. Of course, this is just the perfect teacher you might have always wanted throughout your life. Now, let's see what basically changed. You see, the first teacher, who was very gloomy, had a negative attitude towards the world. And when you hear the word attitude, what first comes into your mind is ego. But let me tell you, attitude is not ego. Attitude, as Jeff Keller, the author of this book, defines it, is your window to the world. And the author takes this metaphor very seriously. We'll come to this point later, but let's discuss the point we were on. So, what really changed between the two teachers? They got the same class, the same students, and basically they were teaching one subject that the students did not like. But what changed again was that one teacher had a very negative attitude towards the world, due to which which basically impacted what she said and what she did. Whereas the other teacher, having a positive attitude, had a mindset, had a thought process which resulted in her doing certain actions which made the children interested towards her. And that is why he says that attitude is everything. As I said, Jeff Keller takes the metaphor of attitude being your window to the world very seriously. Just like we click many pictures on Snapchat, on Instagram, on Facebook, and there's this one feature that's newly arising. It's called filters. It basically changes what the real world has, at least from the point of view of the camera. Now you see, if there's a certain Diwali filter, then it will add a diya to the camera which is not actually present there. And that is what attitude does. It is a window that acts like a filter. And now why I say he takes this metaphor so seriously? Because the problems that people face that makes their window very dirty. He says it dirty because when you see the world towards a bad outlook, you are gloomy just like the first teacher. And that's why he gives you the causes which makes this window dirty, and he also tells you the solutions. And that is where he quotes Shakespeare. He says, nothing is good or bad. It's your thoughts that make them so. And now again, this is one thing I'd like to talk about, that throughout the book, as you can see here, he has added some quotes on the margins. And these quotes are by different people that basically show you the credibility of what he's talking about. And this takes us to the next part of the book. Now the next chapter of the book, remember, next chapter, not the next step. The next chapter in the book is about making yourself a human magnet, a human being which attracts what they want towards themselves. If you have read the book The Secret or watched the movie, one of the authors of that book also shares the same thought. Now what he has got in store to tell about this to us is, he tells one of the words of Earl Nightingale. He says that that there are 6 words which basically define the whole of this chapter. Those 6 words are, we become what we think about. And Earl Nightingale says this because he believes that whatever we think about, we attract those things towards us. Why? Now let's see. You see, just as I mentioned in the previous chapter, when you think about good things, when your thoughts are good, that develops a good attitude, and that clears your window to the world, right? And now many of you might be thinking that, oh Sanchit, you do not know. It's not easy to build a good attitude. You've got to do certain things. You've got to have a good atmosphere. And how is it even possible to build a good atmosphere without it already being present there. Now, let me share you one analogy to solve this problem. For example, let's again assume you are a 12-year-old boy like me, and just the half yearlies have gotten over. Your last paper did not go well. You did not know most of the answers and you have to skip many questions. But today you had to get the marks of the first paper you attempted. Now, until now, you were thinking, such a bad paper I went, and in the morning also, let's suppose you got late for school. You're having such a negative attitude. You're believing, why am I living? Why am I living such a bad life? But then immediately you get the marks of your first test and you have scored full. Now, do you think, will you again be thinking, why am I living in a bad world? No. Of course, you'll be thinking, great, I've scored full marks, and you'll be so excited to share this with all your friends. You'll be going to each of them, solving their problems, and sharing your happiness with the rest of the world. What just happened? Let's see. Just now you had a very negative attitude, and just after you got the marks, you had a positive attitude. What changed was your mental state. When you change your thoughts, just as I said, when you change your thoughts, when you divert them towards something good, when you start thinking about something good, that is when you start taking another step towards success. And of course, success won't come overnight. You have to wait, you have to be patient, and that's when success will have. Because you see, to charge a magnet, it takes time, right? And just like that, because you're a human magnet, it will take some time for your magnet to work. Because maybe your ambitions are higher, your ambitions are big, and that's why it'll take some time for that magnet to attract them. Now, let's move to the next part. The book quotes Jonathan Swift, who said that vision is the art of seeing things invisible to others. You see, humans have been awarded with two great capabilities. One is their mind and the other is their eyesight. Although the eyesight is present in most of the living beings, but the mind is what most of them do not have. Now, this is what results in the third chapter of the book, which is picturing your way to success. You have to dream your way to success. You have to imagine what it would be, what it would look like when you would be finally successful. Now, what I mean to say by all of this is when you are finally successful, it should not feel new to you. You should already have imagined it so much. You should already have thought about it, pictured it so much that it should be not at all new to you. Now, of course, we all watch movies, we all read books, we all read picture books. Now, I want that instead of watching that 2-hour movie, you can spend 30 to 1 hour on watching something on a television or mobile. I want you to spend 15 to 30 minutes at least every day into picturing what you want as a successful person, and that's what the book also wants you to do. Jeff Keller says in his book that take out some part of your day and at that time just sit and imagine what you want to be successful. He has some tips up in his sleeve to tell you about that, but I want to know them. You should certainly read the book, right? So now one more thing he says is that is very important to reach success, to get success, to achieve success, is to have a commitment, because until and unless you are not utterly committed to your goal, you shall not reach it. Because now again this again roots you to attitude. I was saying that this is because when you have got a good attitude, you have a commitment even when you fail many times. Now failure also plays an important role. Let's stop imagining failure as a bad thing and instead imagine it as a result. Let's imagine that failure is not something that is a setback, but it's just a result that has given you an opportunity to learn more and grow. And your commitment will help you to learn from that failure and move forward. And what's at the root of all things? Of course, your attitude. Only when you will have a good attitude, you will have the motivation to learn from your failures and be committed. And if you'll have a bad attitude, of course, you'll fail at your first attempt and you'll feel demotivated and you will leave your task. Now, let's move to the actual second part of the book, which is watch your words. So, as I just said, the first part takes you to the second part, which is watch your words. Because what you think, just as I said, success begins in the mind with your thoughts and your attitude. What you think comes onto your mouth, and that is what you speak. Now, how drastic an effect your words can have on your life is explained by a story that author Jeff Keller has to tell us, a real story about a NASA scientist called Kent Cullers. Now, Kent Cullers is in the NASA's program for the search of extraterrestrial life, and he was developing a software that helps you find and detect signals coming from outer space. Now, he has got one physical problem, and how he describes that problem is as a trivial affliction or barely an inconvenience. Now, when you hear these words, what comes to your mind? Maybe a touch of arthritis, as the author says, or again, as the author says, an occasional migraine? No, let me tell you, Kent Cullers is blind. Would you believe it? He's blind and he calls it that it's just a trivial affliction. And that is what keeps him motivated when he says that his physical disability is not something big and that it is just a small problem. That is what develops a positive attitude again within him, and that's what gives him a boost to work further. Now, there are two choices with your words. Either you can use your words in such a way that will again take you to success, but it will be a slower but comfortable path, or another that will be a faster, swifter, but a little uncomfortable path. Let me tell you what. The slower path is that you keep your words to yourself. You utter those words to yourself, and that is what develops a positive attitude. This way, you'll remain comfortable. Or the other way is that you share your words with others. Now, this might seem a bit uncomfortable, like the others might say that, oh, what is he talking about? Why are you saying such things? But how this will help you is that if you said something to another person, you're basically making a commitment, because then you have the fear of embarrassment, because you know that if you'll not do that thing now, then you'll have to face embarrassment. And that is how sharing your words with other people can help. Now, here the author has a funny incident to share about another author, Zig Ziglar. Now, Zig Ziglar had a particular weight, and he was writing a book. On the first page of the book, he wrote that currently I have 165 pounds, although he was having more than that. And would you believe me, he asked the publisher to print a large amount of copies of those books. Now, he thought that by the time this book is published, I have to lose this much amount of weight because the public is going to know it. And that's what made him committed towards that goal, and that's what resulted in a commitment, all due to his words, all due to the words he penned down on the notebook. Now, one more reason why words are very important is that, let me ask you the question, how are you? When somebody asks you on a call, or when you meet somebody, it seems like a trivial question in our daily lives, something that is not of much importance. But let me tell you, this one question can help you provide a lot of opportunities. Just think, if somebody would come and ask you now, how are you? What would be your reply? There are three categories. One is the negative response. You'd say, I'm not fine, or my day wasn't good. Or then there's the mediocre category, where you'd say, it was just fine. It could have been better. And then there is the positive category, when you say, it's terrific. I am just on cloud 9. Now, the author of the book Attitude is Everything, Jeff Keller, he wants your reply to always be in the third positive category. Because just tell me, you're going to have a business deal with someone. What would you want? If the person replies you when you ask him, how was your day? He says you, it was just fine. Is this the kind of person you'd like to have business with? Of course not. you'd like to have the person who just bangs on the table with his hand and he says, "It was terrific." You said, "This is the kind of energy I want for a business partner with me." It creates an aura that attracts people to you, and that is what results in you getting more opportunities, all because of your words. And that is why the author has got 3 chapters fully devoted to this section as to watch your words. Now let's move to the next, the third and the last step towards success, which is heaven helps those who act. Now again, heaven helps those who act. And I believe this is one of the most important step towards success, which is the third step, and I believe the most important part of the book. Because until and unless you don't take an action, you'll not reach success. As the author quotes by one of the other people, one man with a commitment is better than 100 people who only have an interest. You see, the author stresses on the point that if you take an action, only then you'll reach success. Now, don't misunderstand me. Thoughts and words are also important, but they are basically playing the role of giving rise to the correct actions. So, what we want as the end products are actions that result towards success. And for that, the main theme he has kept is networking. You have to connect with people, you have to talk to people so that they can generate opportunities for you, which will lead you to success. He says that will again happen, as I mentioned in the watch your words part, only if you have a good attitude, only if you can develop a good aura, which will attract people towards you. Now, one important thing is you need to exit your comfort zone. You need to enter the zone in which you are uncomfortable, where you feel a little shy, where you are a little uncomfortable, and most of the people quit at this particular point. But the author wants you not to do so. He says only when you'll exit your comfort zone, because until now you have been living in your comfort zone and you've achieved what you've achieved so far. To achieve something extraordinary which you could not achieve until now, you have to exit your comfort zone. Now, many people will ask, how do I face this? How do I face this new environment where I have to do things which I'm not comfortable with which I'm not comfortable with? Now again, it all comes back to your attitude. When you have a positive attitude, a cheerful smile on your face, you'll be able to face them happily. Even failures would look just like a pat on the back saying you did well this time, but you could improve. And the author, what he has to say is that again, it won't happen overnight and that it takes time. He has got some tips up his sleeve to tell you as to which actions will take you to success, how to craft such actions, and finally, after following these 3 steps, you will achieve success. So, giving a final summary of the book, first of all, what you need to have, I've created a roadmap of this. First of all, I write that you need to have a good attitude. That good attitude will result in some thoughts arising in your brain. When those thoughts, again, there's a law of dominant thought, which means, as mentioned in the first part of the book, the thought, as I said, the pictures of your mind, those pictures should be dominant. Not that you're thinking 30 minutes a day and that's all. The rest of the day you are having a negative mindset. No, that should be the dominant thought which is prevailing your mind throughout the day. And that is what results then in certain beliefs. So there's attitude, thought, beliefs. These beliefs then come onto your mouth and take the form of words. These words then result in you taking certain actions, and these actions will find you certain opportunities which will help you achieve success. That was the review of Attitude is Everything by Jeff Keller. I believe you liked the video. If you liked it, then do click the like button below and subscribe to this channel. Share this to as many people as you can so that we can make this a world full of people who love to read. Thank you.